Welcome back, folks. Have you ever thought if there was a way to disappear so smooth, so calm, so damn unbothered, that it haunts them forever? I'm not talking about ghosting out of pain or acting cold out of revenge. I'm talking about walking away with such poise, such energy, such untouched dignity, that it burns in their mind like an unanswered question. Because let's be honest, my friends, some of you gave everything. You showed up with love, with effort, with loyalty. And what did they do? They doubted you, ignored your value, rejected your heart like it was disposable, over and over again. And now you're sitting there, wondering, how do I make them feel it? How do I make them regret it? Not by chasing, not by begging, not by explaining yourself one more time. No, you do it by leaving, clean, quiet, and classy. You do it by vanishing in a way that turns your silence into a mirror they can't stop staring at. Because when you stop showing up, they're left with nothing but the echo of everything they ignored. And folks, that echo is louder than your presence ever was. Let's call it what it is. Most people don't miss you. They miss your energy, your light, the way you made them feel powerful, loved, seen. You were their peace in the middle of their chaos, their safe place when the world was ugly. But they got used to it, entitled to it, thought you'd never walk. And now they're about to learn the cost of their ignorance, not because you're going to yell, but because you're going to disappear, with class. You see, disappearing with class is the highest form of Stoic mastery. It's knowing when to stop pouring into someone who only wanted to sip from your soul when it was convenient. It's realizing your time, your effort, your love. It's a luxury, not a guarantee. So you don't slam the door, you don't start a war, you just fade, like a legend. You leave no explanation, no drama, just distance. Distance that speaks for you, distance that teaches them what your words never could. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Let them sit in that unconscious guilt. Let them wrestle with the reality that they had someone rare and threw it away like it was common. That pain they feel deep down but pretend isn't there. That's not your job to fix anymore. That's the price they pay for thinking you were replaceable. Because here's what they'll never forget: the one who left like royalty, the one who smiled instead of snapped, the one who let go without losing class. Your exit becomes their punishment, not through cruelty, but through clarity. The clarity that you never needed them, that you chose them, and now you're choosing peace. So don't just listen to this and scroll away like it's another passing reel. No, this moment right here, this is where everything shifts. This is where you stop handing your power to people who never earned it. This is where you reclaim the narrative, not with noise, but with class. I want you to lock this into your identity right now. Type it out like a declaration, not a comment. My silence is power. Say it with your chest. Speak it like you mean it. Stamp it into your future. Because you're not just typing words, you're activating a whole new version of you. One that doesn't chase, one that doesn't explain, one that disappears so clean they'll search for you in every room that suddenly feels cold without your warmth. So hit the comments and declare it now. Don't wait. Let your energy echo across this space. And if this message cracked something open in you, if it made you sit up straighter, breathe deeper, or finally understand what you've been doing wrong, press that like button like you're sealing a contract with yourself. Subscribe, not for me, but for you. Because you deserve to stay connected to this level of strength and clarity. Stay with me, my friends. The next part, it's not just insight, it's transformation. Number 1, become a puzzle they can't solve. Let me take you deeper, my friends. You want to know what truly haunts a person long after you're gone? It's not anger, it's not blocked numbers or 2 a.m. Instagram quotes. It's mystery, that moment where they sit in their own room, long after the drama has faded, and they ask themselves, wait, what happened? That confusion, that itch they can't scratch, that's where you live now, in the empty space between what they thought they knew about you and what they'll never know again. Because you didn't leave with tears or tantrums, you didn't throw stones or post subliminals, you left with silence and a knowing smile. You walked away like someone who knows their value can't be auctioned off to the highest bidder. And now they don't know if you're done with them, healing without them, rising above them, or already standing next to someone better. That's the part that eats them alive. You see, folks, the human mind can't stand unfinished stories. We're wired to seek resolution, and when someone can't figure you out, can't label your silence, can't predict your next move, they go into mental overdrive. They rewind your conversations, replay old messages, analyze every last detail, hoping to find the moment they lost you. And that moment never comes. Because you didn't explode. You simply evaporated, like fog when the sun shows up. Quiet, natural, untouchable. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but isn't that manipulation? No, this isn't a game. This is spiritual protection. This is self-worth in motion. You gave them chances. You showed up with grace. You were transparent, loving, patient. But they treated your honesty like a weapon and your vulnerability like a weakness. And now your silence is the sword. It cuts deeper than words ever could. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And oh, how they resisted your truth, your value, your presence. They thought if they ignored it long enough, it would disappear. But what did you do? You stopped resisting too. You didn't fight for attention. You didn't beg for clarity. You let go completely. And now you persist in their mind. Not because you forced your way in, but because they tried so hard to keep you out. Disappearing like this isn't easy. Let's be honest. You'll have moments where you want to check in. You'll feel the urge to explain, to prove that you were good, that your love was pure. But my friend, that's not your job anymore. The more mystery you hold, the more power you keep. Don't give them the ending they crave. Don't feed their ego with closure. Let them taste the discomfort of not knowing. Let it brew in their chest every time they hear your name in a random conversation or see something that reminds them of you. Why is this so hard to do? Because our ego wants to be understood. We think we'll finally feel free if we just get that one last conversation, that one final message. But you won't. You'll just reopen the wound. You'll just hand your power back to the person who never valued it to begin with. That's not closure, that's self-sabotage in disguise. So instead, become the unanswered question, the what if, the could have been. Let your silence become the space where their guilt starts to echo. Let your disappearance be so filled with peace and elegance that they question not just what they did, but who they are. People don't lose you and move on. Not when you leave like this. Not when you become a puzzle they can't solve. Picture it like this. They were in a dark room and you walked in holding a lit candle. For a while they enjoyed the light, took it for granted, maybe even laughed when you warned them the flame doesn't last forever. Then, one day, without a word, you walked out, and now they're standing in the same room, realizing they never learned how to light their own. That's the moment they start searching, not for someone else, but for you. For that peace, that glow, that spark only you gave. And the thing is, they'll never find it again. Not because they can't, but because you don't repeat yourself for people who fail the test twice. twice. This is why Stoicism matters here. It teaches us to act from inner discipline, not emotional reaction. You're not disappearing to punish them. You're disappearing to protect you, to elevate you, to give your peace the oxygen it needs to grow without their chaos. You're walking away because you finally realize you don't need to prove anything to anyone who was too blind to see your worth when it was standing right in front of them. You're not hiding, you're healing, you're not playing games, you're mastering detachment, and every day that you resist the urge to be understood, you grow more powerful, because in that resistance you become unforgettable. Not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't say. Not because of how you left, but because of how you carried yourself when you did. So let them wonder, let them question, let them sit in their own confusion, because you've got peace to protect and a future to build. You are not their unfinished story. You are the mystery that teaches them the lesson they were never ready to learn. Write this in the comments right now. I am their unsolved mystery. Type it, own it. Let it be your anchor when the urge to explain shows up again. And if this hit you deep, if it helped you see just how powerful your silence really is, then press that like button with intention. Subscribe for more clarity, more truth, and more power. And stay with me, because the next lesson, it's going to elevate your spirit to a whole new level. Number 2, remove the oxygen, emotional suffocation without noise. Let's talk about oxygen, my friends, not the kind that fills your lungs, but the kind that fills their ego, the kind that kept them alive while they drained you dry. See, for a while they were breathing in your energy like it came with no price tag. Your attention, your kindness, your forgiveness, it was their oxygen tank, and they never stopped to think what would happen if you took it away. They thought it would last forever. But what happens when someone grows used to breathing your air, and suddenly you disappear? They suffocate, not loudly, not with tears or tantrums, but slowly, quietly, emotionally, and the most painful part, they won't even realize what's happening to them at first. All they'll know is that something feels off. Life doesn't taste the same. Their peace doesn't feel peaceful. The people they used to enjoy don't fill the same void, because your energy was the source, and now it's gone. Not with a scream, but with stillness. But let me be clear, the trick isn't in slamming doors or making a public exit. No, that's not Stoicism. That's ego. We don't do that here. What we do is disappear strategically. You don't tell them you're leaving. You don't write a final letter explaining your pain. You simply stop showing up. Stop initiating. Stop holding space for someone who treated your love like it was disposable. You don't send them silence to get a reaction. You send them silence because your spirit finally ran out of air. They'll feel it, not in their phone, but in their chest. One day, they'll scroll past something that reminds them of you, and for a second, they won't be able to breathe. That's how emotional oxygen works. It's invisible, but once it's gone, you feel it everywhere. And here's what makes it even more brutal. They won't be able to replace it, because you weren't just a person. You were their soul's air supply, and once you cut that off, no amount of distraction or rebound attention will fill the void. Now I know this isn't easy. You were raised to care, to explain, to fix, and every part of you might want to send one last message, to give them one more chance to understand your heart. But let me ask you this. Did they ever do the same for you? Or did they just breathe you in, day after day, without ever asking how much it was costing you? Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And when you stop being the emotional oxygen in someone's life, they are forced to face themselves, to sit in their own patterns, to confront the emptiness they thought they could fill with your energy. That's not your guilt to carry. That's their growth to suffer through. This is the power of emotional detachment, rooted in Stoicism. You are not walking away because you stopped loving. You are walking away because you finally started breathing for yourself. You no longer exist to keep someone else emotionally afloat while you drown in silence. You are no longer their oxygen tank. You are your own life source now. And that is the kind of move they never recover from. So let them gasp, let them feel the dryness in their chest when your presence is no longer available. Let them wonder why everything feels heavier without you. That's not cruelty, that's consequence. And the best part? You don't have to lift a finger. Your absence will do the work. Your peace will speak louder than your pain ever could. Now I want you to ground this truth into your identity. Write it in the comments right now. I'm not their oxygen anymore. Say it with calm, with clarity, with pride, because from this moment on, you breathe only for yourself. Press the like button if you're done being someone's emotional crutch. Subscribe if you're finally ready to choose your peace over their comfort. And stay with me, because next we go even deeper into the art of vanishing with class. Number 3. Elegant absence leaves no fingerprints. There's an art to disappearing that most people never master, my friends. See, some think power is in the explosion, in slamming doors, in dramatic exits, in long rants filled with rage. But true power, the kind that leaves a mark deep in someone's soul, that comes from elegance, from leaving so quietly, so calmly, so unshaken, that the silence itself becomes unforgettable. Don't burn the bridge. Let it stand. Not because you're planning to walk back, but because you're letting them watch it from a distance, knowing they can never cross it again. Don't delete the chat. Let them scroll through the messages one day, searching for signs they missed. Let them reread your kindness and wonder how they lost someone who never once disrespected them, even in pain. You see, that's what cuts deeper than any insult ever could. They expected anger. They expected chaos. What they didn't expect was grace. Because grace confuses people who operate from ego. They'll check your page looking for the usual post-breakup drama and find nothing. No quotes, no shade, no sudden attention-seeking moves. Just silence, just peace, just your life. Continuing. That's what drives them mad. The realization that their chaos didn't disturb your spirit, that even at the end, you moved like royalty, calm, in control, above it all. You want to know what leaves the biggest imprint on someone's mind. Not your words, not your tears. It's the way you carried yourself when it all went down. Were you messy or were you majestic? Did you lose your cool, or did you walk away like someone who's done this work on themselves, like someone who's no longer available for emotional poverty? And this is where Stoicism kicks in, folks. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about not giving them the satisfaction of watching you break. It's knowing that every word you don't say becomes a thought they can't escape. You leave no fingerprints, no proof of emotional leakage, just the memory of a calm soul they couldn't shake, even after you were gone. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And when you leave with grace, it forces them to face that reflection, because if you didn't curse them out, if you didn't fall apart, if you didn't even react, then they have no one left to blame. Now it's just them, their choices, and the weight of your elegance pressing on their chest like a truth they can't run from. Yes, it's tempting to speak your mind. Yes, part of you wants to make sure they feel what they did. But here's the thing, your class already does that. Your silence is their sentence. Your kindness, even in the end, becomes the blade. Because they'll remember it, over and over. And every time life humbles them, they'll wish they had handled you better. So let your last words be kind. Let your exit be clean. Let your energy be untouchable, because when they finally mature, when they finally learn, they'll go back to that moment, your goodbye, and realize you didn't walk away because you were weak. You walked away because you were wise. Right now, I want you to make that wisdom yours. Lock it into your character. Type it in the comments. I leave with grace. Say it like it's your signature move, because from here on out, your power isn't in what you say. It's in what you don't have to say. Press that like button if you're choosing silence over drama. Subscribe if you're done with loud exits and ready for legendary ones. And stay close, because this next part, it's going to teach you how to leave not just their life, but their memory, imprinted forever. Number 4, the memory hook. Embed your best self in their mind. Let me tell you something, folks. Before you walk away for good, don't just disappear. Etch yourself into their soul. And I'm not talking about grand gestures or final speeches. I'm talking about one clean, unforgettable imprint. A memory so raw, so human, so real, that it lingers in the corners of their mind long after you're gone. That's the move that turns your absence into a presence they can't shake. See, the truth is, most people forget what you say, they forget what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel. And if you were ever real with them, if your heart ever touched theirs, then you've already got the tool. Now all you have to do is leave something behind that sticks, not physically, energetically. Maybe it's the way you laughed during their worst moment, and it brought them peace. Maybe it's the way you touched their hand when words couldn't fix anything, but your presence did. Maybe it's the message you left them that didn't blame, didn't beg, just blessed them and moved on. That's your memory hook. That's what haunts them. Not because you wanted to be cruel, but because it was so pure, nothing in their future will feel like it again. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And that's exactly what you're doing here. You're not trying to stay in their life. You're just leaving behind a transformation they can't undo. You don't have to yell, "Remember me," when your essence already did the work. Now let me be real. Some of y'all might be thinking, why should I do something thoughtful for someone who didn't value me? Because this isn't for them. This is your legacy. This is your growth. This is about ending things on your terms, with intention, with class, with unmatched spiritual power. They didn't deserve the whole of you, but they'll never find another piece like you. Think of it like art. The artist doesn't stand next to their masterpiece explaining what it means. They leave it on the wall and walk away. And years later, people are still staring at it, still feeling it, still wondering how it made them feel that deeply. That's what you're doing. You're walking away like a masterpiece no one will ever recreate. And here's the kicker, this doesn't take much. Sometimes it's a final look, one they didn't expect. Calm, full of compassion, not pain. Sometimes it's your scent lingering in a hoodie they didn't return. Sometimes it's a memory of you dancing in the kitchen when they were too numb to smile. These small, sacred moments become haunting, because no one else will do it like you did. No one else will be who you were. That's not ego, that's impact. But don't overthink it. You don't need to script it. You just need to feel it. Your energy, when pure, does the anchoring for you. All you're doing is making sure the last taste of you was your best self. Not your wounded self, not your reactive self, but the version of you that stood in love, in clarity, and in grace. Because here's the brutal truth: they will meet others, that's life, but they will never meet you again. Not your laugh, not your patience, not your exact tone, timing, texture. You were a one-time event, a rare alignment. And when they finally realize what they lost, it won't be because of what you said, but because of what they feel every time they miss that energy and can't find it again. So do this with heart, with calm. Leave your final impression with power, not desperation. And when you do, you don't just become a memory, you become the memory, the standard, the reference point they'll quietly compare everyone else to. And no matter how many doors they knock on, they'll always hear echoes of you behind them. Now go write this in the comments like a badge of honor. I am the memory they'll never replace. Let that be your truth. Let that be your peace. If this spoke to your soul, press that like button. Subscribe if you're ready to live at this level of power, intention, and emotional legacy. And don't go anywhere, because what's coming next? It will teach you how to turn your absence into the most powerful energy in the room. Number 5. Emotional scarcity is the new seduction. Let me break something to you, my friends, and I need you to hear this with every ounce of your soul. Your emotional availability was their addiction, and they never thought it would end. Why? Because you kept showing up. Again and again. No matter how they treated you, no matter how inconsistent they were, you were there. A steady heartbeat in their chaotic world. A soft place to land after they crashed into their own mess. They thought they could always find you. Until one day, they couldn't. That's when everything changed. You see, people crave consistency, but they expect it when they think you don't know your worth. They assume that because you've been kind, you'll always be kind. That because you've been loyal, you'll always stay. But the truth is, emotional presence is only valuable when it's not guaranteed, when it's not given away to just anyone. The second you became rare, when you stopped responding, stopped reaching, stopped showing up like clockwork, you became valuable in a way they never imagined. This is the new seduction, not playing games, not pretending you don't care, but becoming emotionally scarce by honoring yourself so much that your peace comes before their validation. You stopped chasing closure. You stopped explaining your worth. And that silence, that absence, it created hunger. Because scarcity creates desire. We don't chase what's common, we chase what feels like it might disappear. And when you finally made that decision to retreat into your peace, to prioritize your healing over their chaos, you flipped the script. You went from predictable to unforgettable, from accessible to sacred, from always there to out of reach. Now here's where it gets real. They will try to poke holes in your absence. They'll test you. They'll send a just checking in text. They'll like a photo, post a memory, maybe even try to trigger you with jealousy. Why? Because panic sets in when the supply dries up. Carl Jung said, "The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents." I say the greatest tragedy in love is realizing the one who loved you best finally learned to love themselves more. That's what scares them, your evolution, not the silence, not the absence, but the truth that they're no longer the center of your emotional world. You stopped orbiting around their moods, their inconsistency, their confusion. And now they're left chasing a version of you that no longer exists in their atmosphere. I know it's tempting to give in, to answer, to fill the silence just to see if they'll finally get it. But remember this, emotional scarcity isn't punishment, it's protection. It's saying, I refused to make myself emotionally available to someone who only valued me when I was convenient. That's not cold, that's self-respect. They're not chasing you, they're chasing the comfort they lost, the certainty you once gave, the steady hand that kept them grounded. But here's the kicker. Once you go rare, you can't go back. Not because you're being prideful, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself that tolerated that kind of treatment. So don't break your silence just because they suddenly noticed your absence. Don't trade your peace for a moment of attention. Stay rare, stay distant, stay sacred. And now I want you to write this like a declaration in the comments. My peace is rare. Say it like a boundary, like a standard, like a new chapter that doesn't include old cycles. If this opened your eyes, if you're done being emotionally cheap to people who never paid with respect, press that like button. Subscribe if you're choosing yourself in every room you enter from now on. And stay with me, because next I'm going to show you how your silence becomes a mirror they can't escape. Number 6. When silence becomes their mirror. Silence, my friends, is not empty. It's full, so full, in fact, that it echoes, not just in the air, but in the soul. And when you finally choose silence over arguing, peace over proving, dignity over desperation, something shifts. Not just in you, but in them. Because silence, when done right, doesn't just disappear, it becomes a mirror. And that mirror, it doesn't flatter, it reflects. It shows them the truth they ran from, the damage they caused, and the grace they never deserved. They thought your silence meant you had nothing to say, but in reality, it meant you'd said enough. You just got tired of your words falling on deaf ears, so you stepped back. Not because you were weak, but because you were done auditioning for someone who already made up their mind. And in that quiet, that's where they finally start to hear, not your voice, but their own conscience. At first they won't notice. They'll laugh with friends, post their little stories, maybe even jump into something new. But you won't flinch, you won't react, you won't break your peace just to remind them of your worth. And that stillness, that stillness starts to haunt, because it speaks the truth they refused to face when you were still around, that they had someone real, and they lost them, for good. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But when you disappear without chaos, when you go quiet without explanation, you force them to sit with the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. The guilt, the shame, the selfishness. Your silence becomes a mirror to all of it. And guess what? That mirror doesn't fade. It waits. It lingers. It confronts them in quiet rooms and sleepless nights. Right when the world gets still and the mask comes off. Now listen, they'll try to distract themselves. That's what people do when silence starts getting loud. They'll jump into a new relationship, hoping to mute the voice in their head. But energy doesn't lie. And your energy, it's not replaceable, it's not transferable, it's not just love they miss. It's you, the way you listened, the way you stayed, the way your presence made them feel understood, even when they didn't have the words. And now that it's gone, they're realizing something terrifying. They have to face themselves. There's no one left to blame, no one left to vent to, no one left to reflect back the goodness they kept mistreating. That's when the silence becomes a scream. You don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of it. You're not waiting for karma. You are the karma. And it didn't come with revenge. It came with reflection. While they scroll through highlight reels and rebound conversations, your silence is showing them everything they tried to bury, every missed chance, every ignored effort, every moment you stayed when you should have walked. And it's in that realization, not your words, that the regret begins. So don't break the silence, don't cave, don't explain what they already know in their heart. Stay calm, stay grounded. Let your absence speak for you. Now, lock this in, right now. Type it in the comments like a quiet storm. My silence is their mirror. Say it like a truth you've earned. Press that like button if you're done being the one who always explains. Subscribe if you're finally learning that reflection is more powerful than revenge. And stay with me, because what comes next is the twist they'll never see coming. How to leave them not with closure, but with questions that never go away. Number 7. Leave them with a question, not a closure. There's a strange thing that happens, my friends, when you walk away without a closing line, without a final speech, without giving them the comfort of knowing where they stand with you. It doesn't sit right in their soul, not because they miss you at first, but because they can't figure you out. And when the human mind doesn't get closure, it starts building stories, spirals, scenarios, one after the other. Your silence? It becomes the beginning of every mental loop they can't exit. They expected something from you, a scene, an argument, a last "I love you" or "I hate you," something they could fold up and label, something that would allow them to move on guilt-free. But what did you give them? Nothing. And that, right there, is where the haunting begins. Carl Jung said the unconscious mind will play out unresolved stories until we're forced to face the truth. And when you leave them with no answers, no reaction, no clarification, you become the unfinished chapter that the mind keeps reopening. They start asking themselves the questions they never cared about when you were still available. Did she ever really love me? Was I the one who ruined it? Is she already over me? And because there's no answer, their own guilt starts writing one. Let them write it. Let their own mind build the narrative. Because here's what most people never admit. It's not closure they want, it's control. They want to decide how the story ends. They want to be able to say, "She left because of X," or "He was just too emotional." Something clean, something ego-safe. But when you leave without giving them that ending, they're stuck. They can't box you in. They can't control the story. Now, they become the ones refreshing your page, overthinking your last message, wondering if you're laughing, crying, or already forgetting they ever existed. And let me tell you, it's not the loud exits that haunt people. It's the mysterious ones, the exits where they never got to see you break, where they never got the satisfaction of being the center of your pain. You left the room whole, calm, confident, and now you've turned into a ghost that doesn't haunt with presence, but with unanswered questions. Did I mess up the best thing I ever had? Would she have stayed if I tried harder? These are the questions that replay during the quiet moments, late at night, in the car, in the middle of conversations with people they don't care about. Your absence becomes their obsession, not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't say. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but I need closure too. Let me be clear, you don't need their closure. You need your own decision. You create your ending when you stop needing them to understand it. And the second you walk away without justifying yourself, without over-explaining, you take your power back. Fully, you become the unsolved riddle in their life, the story they keep returning to when things get quiet. And trust me, folks, they will return to it, because the mind doesn't forget the people who left clean. It doesn't forget the ones who walked without flinching. So be the chapter they can't close, the question that keeps them awake, and while they're searching for answers, you're writing a whole new book. Now stamp this into your spirit and into the comments. I am the chapter they can't close. Write it like a promise. Press that like button if you're done giving explanations to people who never really listened. Subscribe if you're ready to become the question they'll never find the answer to. And stay with me, because next we seal this with the final move. How to disappear so elegantly they can never look at love the same way again. Number 8. The art of moving on without looking back once. Here's where most people slip, my friends, and I mean the strong ones, the smart ones, the ones who almost made it. They walk away, but their heart stays stuck in the rear view. They delete the messages, unfollow the pages, say they're done, but then they peek, they scroll, they wonder. Did they post about me? Do they miss me yet? Are they hurting like I am? And just like that, the silence loses its strength. The detachment becomes performance. The absence becomes bait. And the one who once had all the power starts leaking it again, one emotional relapse at a time. But you don't do that, because this chapter isn't about pretending to move on. It's about becoming someone new, someone too evolved to circle back. You don't need updates. You don't need proof. You don't need to see their regret in pixels and posts. You need your peace. You need your clarity. You need your energy back. That's where the real power is, not in what they feel, but in what you refuse to feel anymore. See, there's a sacred kind of silence that doesn't just say, "I'm done." It says, "I've transcended." And when you reach that level, when you stop watching their life and start building your own, something divine happens. They feel it. Not because you said anything, but because your soul disconnected completely. The cord snapped. And even if they don't understand energy, they'll feel it in their gut, the absence of your emotional anchor. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." And that's what this final step is, folks. Awakening. You stop needing them to notice what they lost, because you finally noticed what you gained. You gained yourself, your peace, your presence, your future, and nothing they do from this point forward has power over you unless you choose to give it attention. Now I know moving on without looking back sounds good in theory, but it's brutal in practice. Why? Because we're not just leaving them behind. We're leaving behind the version of ourselves that loved them. And that version? She fought hard. She believed. She forgave. So of course she wants to be acknowledged. Of course she wants them to say, "You were right. I was wrong." But closure is an illusion, my friends, and peace is your birthright. So let them wonder, let them sit with the silence, let them scroll and second-guess every choice they made, while you evolve, you rebuild, you glow, quietly, powerfully, not to prove a point, but because your story isn't stuck in the chapter they refuse to grow in. Nothing haunts someone more than realizing the person they hurt doesn't even flinch anymore, that they're not being watched, not being waited on, not being obsessed over. You disappeared, and this time, you stayed gone. That's the final punch. That's the haunting. And that brings us to the end of this journey, my friends. If you've made it this far, it means you're no longer interested in temporary attention. You're ready for permanent transformation. The way you disappear, with class and control, becomes the mark they'll never forget. So if this message hit your soul, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Drop your favorite affirmation from the comments below, and let's build this powerful community together. Stay grounded, stay rare, and remember, your silence is legendary.